Hello, everyone, and welcome to another GitHub Education stream. Very excited to be joining you all today from the beautiful San Francisco. My name is Juan Pablo Flores. I'm a senior program manager here at the GitHub Education team. A lot of my work is, interacting with students and making sure that we are making a great job of supporting you all in your careers or while you're building your careers as developers. Today, we have a very, very important stream for us. We're launching a lot of new stuff during GitHub Universe. As probably you've known, in the past couple of days, we have been sharing some news about what's new on GitHub. We have shared some updates and new features that have been launching in the past couple of days. So definitely check that out on githubuniverse.com. And especially for this stream, I'm very excited to share more about some of the amazing work that GitHub Education and teachers and some of our partners like Microsoft we have been building in the past few weeks for you to make the most out of these new features that have been released. And one of them is GitHub Codespaces. So for all of you that are getting started or probably haven't heard of these in the past, Codespaces is essentially a computer in the cloud that you can use to code any type of application that comes to your mind. And we wanted to take some time to share with some people who are getting their hands dirty with the technology. So joining us today, we have Noah Gift, Alfredo Tisa, and as well as Sarah Gibbons, who have been working with us. But let's start first to kind of getting a little bit of the lay of the land. So I'm going to bring to the stream first Noah Gift to tell us more about how he is using GitHub Codespaces, how he's using also GitHub Copilot as part of his curriculum. So please welcome to the GitHub stage, Noah Gift.
Hi.
Hey Noah, how's it going?
Doing well. How are you doing?
I'm doing absolutely fantastic. I'm from Seattle, so coming to San Francisco and getting some sunlight is always pretty much appreciated. Some natural vitamin D. But before we start, let us know who you are.
Sure. My name is Noah Gift, and I'm an O'Reilly author. I think I'm on my 5th book with O'Reilly, and I also teach for Duke in the MLOps and AI PI program. So essentially, I teach machine learning operations, cloud computing, data engineering, and I'm in Raleigh, North Carolina. But I used to be in the Bay Area. I used to live in San Francisco for about 10 years.
Yeah, so a lot of the works and stuff that we've been working in the past is making sure that students get access to more resource sources for them to get started. And what we've learned is that there's a lot of frustration when you're getting started with your career in tech, right? Like as someone who is technical or non-technical, setting up your first environment or setting up, like Python and then forgetting to update the path if you're on Windows can be a little bit of a pain. But can you tell us a little bit more about what's your experience with some of these tools, and especially as a teacher? More than that, let's start with like as a teacher, what are some of these common things or struggles that you've seen folks have as they join tech or as they get started with coding?
Yeah, it's a great question. In fact, because there is a disconnect, I think, between industry and academics, and I don't know when it's going to get 100% solved, because there are great things that people are doing as academics, like doing research, but then the researchers often become the teachers, and they're not necessarily the practitioners, right? So there is a little bit of an issue there, in that many of the tools you use in academics are not necessarily the tools you want to use when you go into the world. and
Yes.
and that's one part of the problem. That's kind of the setup. And then the other issue is, as you mentioned, is you get into a classroom, you want to start teaching, and it's like, hey, what's going on? Nobody's paying attention to what I'm teaching. I'm trying to teach TensorFlow, or I'm trying to teach scikit-learn, and everybody's complaining about, like, they can't get Python running. And really, it's a big problem. And I've been teaching as an adjunct, and I actually started teaching at UC Davis in their graduate school of management, in their data science program, essentially, back in 2017. And that was literally the first problem I had, was like nobody could get anything running. And what GitHub Codespaces does is it centralizes an environment that the teacher and the students have. And so you know exactly what it is the student is working on. And in addition, you as a professor can build out a structure that you would recommend. So you could say, look, here's the libraries I'd like, here's the structure I'd like. and then essentially all the training in class is focused on, the curriculum, not focused on getting your environment set up.
Totally. Before we move forward, I just want to acknowledge some people that have been joining here in chat. So, hello, Dyson. Hello, Javi Mosales. Hello, Marte. Hello, everyone. Let us know where you're connecting from. I can see Javi is joining us from Madrid, which I think is a little bit late in Madrid. Thank you all for taking the time to be here with us. And going back to the topic, right? Like, I think as I had the opportunity of teaching coding and coding skills here in as part of GitHub. And one of the things that I really like is seeing people enjoy the process of coding, right? We want to bring them with delightful opportunities to learn and to really understand what's happening behind the scenes. But sometimes, like when you're setting up these environments, this takes away that process of probably you want to make them, I don't know, make their first like hello world, and you get a little bit distracted by like all these other operation sites. I wonder, as you already kind of like a teacher, how have like students felt about like these features and these products? Have you had the opportunity already to test out with them and see what how they're feeling, and especially what are some of the reactions and the stories that have come out of these opportunities?
Yeah, it's a great question. So, from the very beginning in teaching, I gravitated towards cloud-based development environments, and part of that is because my background is as a both individual contributor and VP of engineering in San Francisco, like at startups. And so, a lot of what I would try to do as a VP of engineering would be, let's get everybody on the same environment. Let's make your dev environment identical to production. Right? That's the dream scenario for most engineering managers. And so as a teacher, I was the same thing. I was like, "Hey, let's make sure everybody's on the same page." And so I started with hosted notebooks, and I think Colab did a pretty good job. They had their time in the sun. One of the issues though is that you can't put things locally. You can't really customize packages that well. And as the last several years, as Code Spaces has been available, I don't know when they exactly launched, but literally the day they came out, I started using them. And then once they were available in the classroom, which was midway through me teaching the semester at Duke, I made everybody get access to it. And I would say it's one of the most well adopted things I've ever done in a classroom. Students immediately got it. They were like, "Wow, oh, so I just click this button and then my code works." And it's kind of an improvement in a sense on a hosted notebook, in that because you have the shared environment, that you can also do software engineering focus. And I think what we're seeing now as well is that the evolution of data science is moving more towards the software engineering workflow. That
Mhm.
before it was mostly about, here's a notebook and I'm going to do exploratory data analysis and I'm going to create a chart. I mean, that's great. I love all that. But I think many organizations realize they want to go a little further. They want to do data engineering. They want to do machine learning engineering. And that's really more of my focus, is getting people to put models into production, build data engineering pipelines. And that's where something like GitHub Codespaces really is like a 10x improvement to get students the skills they need to get a job in the future. Because now, as you mentioned earlier at the very beginning, instead of you going through and suffering for no reason, because I think there's two kinds of suffering. There's suffering that is helpful, like, and you must do some suffering to learn things, and it's like a meritocracy, like
Mhm.
you're earning your way. And then there's just suffering that accomplishes nothing. And
Yeah.
much of software engineering, development setup is just meaningless suffering, and Codespaces really does wipe it out. And I think you mentioned as well the add-on that was kind of the cherry on top of the sundae has been Copilot, because between the two tools together, it really does create this amazing learning environment, because the students get right at what they're trying to do, and they also can get this help from like this really advanced AI tool, which I personally believe will be the future of how people write code.
Yeah, definitely. And it's not only about like building code, but also for a lot of folks that might just getting started, getting those suggestions from Copilot on how they can solve a problem. They also offer an opportunity to learn. I have used Copilot for the past few months, and things that I did in some way, Copilot offered me like another perspective of how I could solve the same problem. And I've learned a ton of like functions that I was absolutely nowhere that existed on Python, just because like Copilot knows and has like that knowledge of those other functions or other kind of like modules that I can be using. Before moving forward, we have more folks joining. So we have Leo joining from Chicago, Trey from Sacramento, Uttar from India. We have Ruta from India as well. Thank you so much, folks, for taking the time being here. And as we continue kind of like this discussion, um, do you think there's like a right time to start using these tools? Because for some folks, for me, one of the I'm really nerdy, and I really like kind of like getting into like deep into the computer, right? So whenever I found like an environment problem or any issues while installing like some software, I really get too deep into it. But I remember when I was in college, like some folks absolutely hated that process. But at the same time, it was like a learning process, as you mentioned, right? Like there's some suffering that you can learn from it, some of it that you can't. Do you believe there's like a right moment for you to start using both code spaces and Copilot that would benefit the students the most? Or do you think like, you can use it anytime as you can like start your journey in coding?
Yeah, that's a good question. I would lean towards immediately. I think that from the day one, students should be focused on using things that are directly applicable to getting a job. And one of the things I mentioned to students is I call it the triple threat. Is you get a degree, you build a portfolio using GitHub, and then you get some kind of certification. And so for me, having students build projects like portfolio projects as quickly as possible. The more time you have, if you're at a 2-year degree or 4-year degree, to build portfolio projects, the better it is. And you might as well just use the same tools that you're going to use in the future versus some other, process that you won't be using. So I do think you use the best tools that are available immediately. And I'm not necessarily a fan of using some kind of substitute tool.
Mhm.
I think there's a certain type of learning that takes place that's experiential, and you must go through it. And so
Yeah.
it would be better for you to learn through the experience of using the tools that you will use in the future than to use and learn experiences that may not be directly related to what you'll do in the job.
Yeah, no, totally agree with that. And if you think about it with like Copilot, students can build a broader portfolio, right? Since it was shared during the keynote yesterday that it helps like developers to code like 55% like faster
Wow.
for those who have access to it. It was tested on Python, so I don't know about the other programming languages, right? But at least for Python, like it has a significant increase in productivity. And this means also like as a student, you get to make more projects that can help you build a resume that will be valuable for someone that might be looking for someone with your experience without probably having to do all this manual work of setting up a project and doing, probably if you're a senior at your school or at college, you don't want to code that for loop manually because you already know what a for loop looks like. So definitely gives you a ton of opportunities to explore even more faster and get a beefier resume before you end up your course. And I think one last question. We have a ton of like guests joining us that I also need to bring them to the stage because they have a lot of the stuff that you've been mentioning. But as you are like you've worked with ML ops in the past, do you think there's a future in code spaces for machine learning operations as well?
Yeah, I think that there's actually a very nice feedback loop where the pre-trained model. So in the case of Copilot, it's using OpenAI's pre-trained model. Is that it itself is now providing you suggestions so that you can write code to do pre-trained model fine-tuning. So you have a fine-tuned model that you're downloading through Copilot, which then helps you write more, code that then potentially could go back into Copilot or go into other systems. So I think there's actually a flywheel, right? Where
Yes.
the better these AI pair programming tools get, the better the machine learning tools will get. I personally have used Copilot. I would say, I think the 55% number, for me at least, is low. I think it could be 2 to 4 times for me.
Wow.
Like
Okay.
the amount of code that, and I mean, I have over 20 years experience with Python. So I would call myself an expert. And then when I use a tool like Copilot, it's like, whoa, it's like, so for me, I've been using it for Hugging Face, OpenAI, doing
Mhm.
PyTorch. And I think it's just going to make ML ops and machine learning workflows just way faster, because a lot of those libraries have very ugly boilerplate code, like just all kinds of stuff that has almost nothing to do with what the thing is you're trying to solve. You're like,
Yes.
oh, I have to write this and this and this, and it just fills out all of the stuff you don't care about.
Yeah, I remember installing OpenCV when I was a student,
Oh,
and it was a pain, just like setting everything up. So I have my fingers crossed that for all of you watching this that are machine learning enthusiasts, that this is just a better experience for you to get started. Because oh my god, configuring OpenCV was a pain. So thank you so much for that general like context about like teaching with Code Spaces and Copilot. I'm gonna give you some break to go to the backstage, and we're bringing Alfredo Deza, who has been helping us to create a lot of this content for you to get started with Code Spaces. We've talked a lot about like how awesome it is, but now let's take some time to learn how we can make the most out of it. So thank you so much, Noah. I'll bring you back in a few. But I appreciate everything that you shared. Awesome, Alfredo. How you doing?
Juan Pablo, thank you so much for having me here. Super excited to be chatting a little bit more about Code Spaces, and especially in the educational setting, which we work with every day with teachers, students, and trying to incorporate that feedback into everything that we do. This is extra special.
No, thank you so much for taking the time. I can see here some folks joining as well. So welcome Ashari from Pakistan, and Leslie, who is one of our campus experts here at GitHub Universe, who hopefully is taking a break from the conference and joining us on this live stream.
Very nice.
Appreciate you all. So we've talked with now about all of the benefits of using Code Spaces. We know it's like a great tool to get yourself faster into building those projects that you are dreaming. So do you want to tell us a little more about what you've done in the past and what you have for students here?
Yeah, in the past, I've been a Python software engineer for many years, and I actually started Python with Noah. Actually, Noah taught me everything I know about Python 12 years ago. My background is in automation. I did lots of DevOps in the beginning, and then transitioned over to do software engineering day in and day out. And then in the past few years, doing a lot of ML ops and creating courses as well, and writing books, some of them with Noah as well. And also doing a little bit of teaching these days at Duke University. And specifically for today, I'm excited to be showcasing a few of the template repositories that we've created specifically for Python, where we think we are tackling some of the big items in Python development. And I wanted to share those with you. So if you don't mind, I'll share my screen here in a second.
Yes, totally.
And let me see. Let me get this. Get this shared. It's a process. It'll take a second. And this should be ready. All right. So what do we have here? So we started like getting into the persona of like, well, what would happen in a classroom situation? I want to teach some Python, and some of these examples will be also relevant if you're a student. If you're familiar with Python or trying to learn Python, you'll know some of the caveats and the problems that you probably have faced before, and this template will kind of like try to address them. So this is an example, a template repository that you can click. The reason why we call it template is because let me click over here. So is because like you can create, you can copy this template over to your account and start from scratch and not copy the whole history. It's kind of like a lightweight way of forking a repository. So essentially, there's nothing really weird. It just looks like a repository that has some Python. And what we can do here is create a code space. I already have one running so that we don't have to wait until that's up and running. And I'm going to click here and I'm going to show you a couple of different things. So it opens up, and this is the README. I'm going to scroll super fast all the way to the top here. This is the README. There's nothing special, but I'll start by opening up a terminal. And this is where the magic happens, because the thing with Codespaces is that it allows you to configure how it interacts, what's the experience going to be for any Python developer, any developer opening this as a code space. So I'm going to open up the command palette here, and I'm going to select this create new terminal. And let's see what happens when I do. So this might not look anything special, and will still look kind of like opening up a terminal. But behind the scenes, we've done two things that are essential and crucial. And again, if you've ever done anything with Python, you will see this is pretty tremendous. The first thing is that when we created this code space, we pre-configured it so that it will create a virtual environment. Now, myself as a professional software engineer doing Python for so many years, I can't tell you how many times I've forgotten to activate the virtual environment, install the packages. Where did my package go? Did I install it correctly? Why is my library not appearing? And behind the scenes, we've created a virtual environment, and we've told VS Code all through the power of Codespaces, by the way, we've created a virtual environment, and your default interpreter is going to be that. And I've opened up the terminal, and the first thing it did, it understood that this is a virtual environment, is going to activate that. So whenever I'm using Python or pip or installing any library, it will come from that virtual environment. So if I do which Python, is going to come from that virtual environment. If I want to install a Python, any library, it will come from that same. So if I can say, for example, install PyTest, which is one of the most popular Python testing libraries, it will just work. It will just go to the right place, and I can keep opening up new terminals, and the same behavior will happen. So if I go and say, open up a new terminal, you'll see that same automatic behavior of sourcing and activating. And this removes a ton of the complexity, a ton of the problems for the students, as well as the teachers that are trying to use this in a setting. So this repository actually goes a little bit beyond. So I'm going to close these. I'm going to show you one other thing. So let's go through the assumption that I'm a teacher. I want to teach a little bit of data science. What are the first things that you're going to do as a teacher? Well, you're going to tell students, well, you need to have Jupyter running, Jupyter Notebooks, want to do something with Jupyter, and then you need to install some dependencies, and then you need to select the kernel. And there are so many steps involved, right? But let's take a look at this example Jupyter Notebook that we have here. I'm going to open it up. I'm going to close here the File Explorer. And here we're assuming that you want to teach a little bit of pandas. So right off the bat, we have something also pretty incredible here on the top right. You have this Python 3.8, and do you see that VM right next to the computer? That means that behind the scenes, Visual Studio Code understands, well, like this is probably the one Python interpreter that we should be using. So I'm going to automatically select that. So again, we're removing layers of decision making that are useless for the student. Like the student doesn't necessarily need to understand all of these for the sake of this example. And this is already taken care of. So we know that we'll be using the right Python version. And we're going to clear all of the outputs of the cells so that you can see here. And I'm going to use some pandas, and I'm going to work with the data set. So I'm going to run this first cell, and you'll see that it's connecting to the kernel. It will take a second, and it will run, and we get some output. Now, what's the magical thing here? It's that I didn't install pandas. You didn't see me install pandas. You didn't see me install all of the dependencies to get Jupyter Notebooks running seamlessly. And you can see that the experience is more on the doing. There's no configuration for the student. I've taken the time to pre-configure the code space so that the experience is more on the analyzing and everything just works. And we can start doing some operations with pandas and perhaps manipulating the data and understanding what the data set is. And we can even plot. And we've installed all the dependencies, including Matplotlib, to do some visualization tasks there. So that's it. That's what I wanted to show you. And behind the scenes, just very quickly, 2 files, one Docker file that has the special instructions for the virtual environment, and the dev container, the JSON file, which tells code spaces how to configure Visual Studio Code, have the default interpreter path, which coming from the virtual environment. So that's it. I hope this was illuminating. I think it is for me. I think it's useful for teachers and students, and hopefully everybody sees the value in configuring code spaces.
Totally. Thank you so much for making that template. And I love the fact that probably we didn't mention this, but like everything happened on the browser. Like nothing, there was no downloading the repository, no cloning, setting up Python or
Right.
anything. It was all done in a browser. And it was like there wasn't any single like thing is stopping you from actually doing the work. And we started like a virtual environment, which I agree with you. I forget all the time to set up my environments, and I feel very guilty when I have to go back and do it manually afterwards. We have some really good like comments here in chat. Gabriela, who also is attending GitHub Universe and had the pleasure to meet her is here. A lot of love from what I can see, and people saying that this is absolutely awesome. So thanks so much for sharing. We're going to talk a little bit more in a few minutes about these templates and how we can bring everything together. But I appreciate the time. As you know, not everyone is a Python developer, unfortunately, even though like we Pythonistas would love to have everyone coding in Python. And I'm so excited for all of you folks that love JavaScript, we have the one and only Sarah Gibbons here with us to share a little bit more about a template that she built that will actually help you get started with your own personal portfolio. We've talked about this a couple of times already, but Alfredo, I'll put you in the backstage and I'll bring you back in a few minutes. Sarah, welcome to the stream. How you doing?
I'm good, Juanpa. How are you?
I'm absolutely like great. Like I can tell how much sunlight I had today, and compared to Seattle rain, I do really appreciate that a ton. Can you tell us a little bit more about what you've been working on?
Yes. So first, hello, everyone watching, all the students out there. I've been watching. I saw Pakistan. What was that? India. I mean, I gotta imagine it's like AM hours there. So this is super impressive that everybody is showing up for this. I love it.
Yeah, you have a few fans here in chat though, so I'm
love it.
I feel with a celebrity right now.
Well, I can to introduce myself a little bit. My Sarah Gibbons. I am a career-long software engineer who now gets to be an academic advocate here at Microsoft, which means I get to work with students and universities and professors and just kind of help improve that learning process and tools. So given the opportunity to work with Codespaces was a great fit. Yeah, like you kind of already teased about the spoiler alert. I love me some JavaScript, back end, front end. I'm living the JavaScript life. So I guess I will start presenting my screen too. I don't know all the buttons to get there, but let's see if I can make it happen.
Fingers crossed. If not, I can jump that I'm you in the browser.
Let's see, window. All right, we are on our way. So yeah, so a lot of what I wanted to do was fix problems that I saw when I was teaching JavaScript through volunteer work that I did, working with students, which similar to Python, which we just looked at, was a lot of environment stuff, that a lot of, you know, which node packages and which version of all of these frameworks am I using always seemed to be a problem. And then what I really didn't was disheartening maybe a little bit when I would teach is that people got frustrated and they would feel like, then this isn't for me. If I can't set up my environment, then maybe I'm not meant to be a developer, which is completely not true. So I love that Codespaces gives them that platform that they can just jump in and start learning. because setting up your environment is kind of complicated. And let's save that for later. I mean, there's no sense in starting there. So yeah, so what we're looking at right now is this is our CodeSpaces project template that will help you as a student build your portfolio site. So let's go down a little bit. Again, it's CodeSpaces, but we've got a good README here that kind of lays out some of what you can expect. Here's a little teaser of what the site looks like. The goal with it is, number one, let's use CodeSpaces. Let's kind of use that for what it's great at. And while we're doing that, let's learn a little bit of JavaScript, HTML, CSS, and deploy you a site. That's very simple. So I've got a CodeSpace running here. So just like kind of Alfredo mentioned, I love that it tees everything up for those that want to use it. So in this case, it's a Node project. So I already installed my Node modules for me when I started my CodeSpace. All I did in here is I did my npm run start, and then I got my website running. So I've got that over here open for us. So right away, all I've done is gone to this repo. I just went here and I did a new CodeSpace. That got me here. And then all I did was npm run start, and I already have the site. So the nice thing that about this is there's a few simple sections that you can fill in for exactly who you are, what you've done. We give you the steps. You can look here in the README and CodeSpaces. A little quick start here, kind of a little bit about the template, because we want to make everyone feel welcome. That even if you don't know JavaScript, here's how we can get you introduced to all the pieces. And then create your portfolio. Let's see if I can buzz down here. There you go. Customize your site in 3 steps. So one of our goals here not only was CodeSpaces, but we want to give you a valuable artifact that you can have fun learning and using, and then deploy it to Azure Static Web Apps, to GitHub pages, whatever your preference is. And it can be a site that you can use as you grow your career. So as you continue to work on projects, you can come back to your CodeSpace and you can enter your project, new links, new things you've worked on, any of that. I think having this set up is a great opportunity for you to go right to GitHub, open this in CodeSpace, make the changes, commit them to Git, and then it will deploy that for you right to your live site. Wampao, what did I miss here in my quick little overview?
You made that perfectly, though. I think the only question that I have is like, this is like, it looks very straightforward. So the only thing that I need to do is like go to the repository. I'll use like the template repository thing. I press like the dot bottom, or I don't know how you call it. Different countries call it like different ways. And I just put like npm run start, and that's it.
Yes. So I launched the CodeSpaces right here from within the education repo. But probably the first thing that's a great call you'd want to do is go to use this template, and it's going to create a new repository of your own. This will allow you to then deploy it through your own account. I think you'll get stopped pretty quickly. I think I tried to do that earlier because I was curious what it would do if I tried to don't tell anybody, but I did try to see if I could deploy from here when I'm running out of that repo, the CodeSpace in that repo. And it was like, hold on, you do not have permissions to do this. So when you're ready to get your own template repository started of your portfolio, the good first step is go to use this template, create a new repository, and I just select myself as an owner, and I'll say portfolio site. That will work too. Make it public, and we're just going to create that from our template repository. So now I'm going to have my own version of this in my account, and then I can start a CodeSpace up here off of this, and then I can deploy it, and it will allow me to because everybody stopped me earlier.
Perfect. No, that was great. Thank you so much for showing. And folks, you have access to these template. It's now on github.com/education. There you can search for the JavaScript or the Python templates there. So let's take some moment, bring back all of our amazing guests, and have a very short discussion about code spaces and how they see the future of these, especially for education. So welcome back, Alfredo, Noah. Thank you for being so passionate in the green screen or the green room. Um, so especially for all of you have like different parts in this kind of like educational ecosystem, right? Like Alfredo and Sarah are working like from let's go like an enterprise side, trying to help more people to get started. Noah, you're a teacher. You also have like your own startup company. And my question for you is like, when you how do you think this is gonna kind of like change how we develop code in the next 2 to 3 years? Like, do you think like people will actually be using these type of resources more in the future? Do you think it makes sense for folks to really jump into code spaces and learn how to customize it and learn how to use it? Does it make any sense for me as a student to get started with these as part of my early career? I'll pass it to Noah, and then we can go Alfredo and Sarah. Sorry.
Yeah, it's a great question. I do believe that this is the future, is a cloud-based development environment, because the ideal scenario for many people is to deploy software in the same environment that you're developing in. I mean, that's the holy grail. And once you have something that's good enough, which I would say not only is CodeSpace is good enough, but it's in many cases superior to anything you could do, even if you're an expert. It really does make the case where I would say enterprise in education in particular, it seems like a no-brainer to use cloud-based development environments. You can pre-configure things; they load fast with the code dev container pre-builds, and then because you're getting access to these SaaS APIs, you're getting Copilot. Who knows what GitHub will develop in the future? It does seem like for the next couple of years, the innovative companies will use a solution like this.
Perfect. Alfredo, do you have anything?
Yeah. I agree with what Noah mentions. I think professionally it makes total sense. Normalization, standardization of the development environment is crucial. One thing I would add is that looking at third world countries and underrepresented communities that don't have access to big, powerful compute systems, a laptop that they can take to college or get access to higher education, this allows them to have access to very powerful compute that wouldn't otherwise be possible. And I think this is going to be a game changer for the educational setting, for the access to technology, where these third world countries or underrepresented communities will now be able to take advantage of and be able to level up and be at the same level with the same compute systems that someone else living in a more privileged environment would be able to do. So I'm tremendously excited. We've already seen the impact of this. Abril Ureña is a wonderful cloud advocate. She's in Mexico. She was giving a presentation about code spaces, and students were like, well, wait, what do you mean? Like I can go home and pick and like do that there, and I don't need to take anything with me, just with my account. And you could see the click in students' minds where something like that is possible, and opening up the possibilities. So I'm really excited about that, and 100%, hands down, I do see this being a game changer for them.
Thank you. Sarah, you would like to add something in there?
No, I just kind of want to plus one all of that. I think that I do a lot of working with underrepresented groups in tech, and even when I go to universities, I'm asking, do I have to have a laptop to major in computer science? Is often a question I'll find out. And I think that this fills a void that keeps a lot of students continuing in this field. They can use code spaces and start developing. I mean, these tools, software engineering, it's Python, it's machine learning now, but I feel like that's going to grow into more fields, and there's going to be a lot of opportunity.
Yeah, I can't believe we are in a future where it doesn't matter which computer you have. It doesn't matter like where you're coding. if you have a browser, that's all you need to get started to code, and that is a great platform for anyone to really get started and to go through a lot of the pain points without having even like noticing it. We saw that with like Saras and Alfredo, like demos of like it was just like one thing and you're already kind of coding, and that's just like absolutely incredible for me to think about. And folks, if you have questions, feel free to leave them here in chat. We would love to kind of answer any questions that you might have. We were talking a little bit in the backstage. One of the questions that came up the most to me was like, how much is this going to cost, right? Like, because like it's great that it's there, but everyone might not have the same access to the financial resources. And I'm so excited to share that for the first 60 hours, if I'm correct, you have free code spaces, and you can use it as you go. So definitely, it's a great way to get started with coding. I know 60 hours for a lot of us is not enough time to really code, especially if you're very into this, right? But it's a great way to start. And I don't know, Noah, Sarah, and Alfredo, would you like to add anything else, especially for a lot of developers that are kind of like experience this change? Like, this is a big change in the way that we're teaching. Do you have anything you would like to say for probably like teachers or for students about like the platform and kind of like the things that they can explore? I think the templates are a great way to start, but there's so much you can do, right? Would you have any advice for that for students watching this stream?
Well, I would say one thing that might be a thing to consider is that students, when they're given access to code spaces, may in many scenarios be ahead of the professor, and I think that's fine. I'm certainly not threatened by it if the students are more advanced than me, and I encourage it, in fact. So I would say that students shouldn't only wait for the professor to do things, is that now that it's a democratizing technology, right? Like, you can go in there, you can take one of the code spaces, the templates that is it Sahar or no Sarah? Sarah and Alfredo have built, which look amazing, and just start building off of that, right? And then from there, you can even show it to your professor. And I think a lot of professors are like, "Oh, this is great. Let's use it for class." So I think that would be one of my recommendations: is don't wait for your professor to get started. Take one of the excellent templates and build off of it.
Completely agree with that. Alfredo, do you want to take it next?
Yeah, two things I want to mention. Well, the first one is that verified students, I think, are going to get a few more hours. I think it's 90 hours for students. And the other thing is that educators that want to use GitHub Classroom, they do have access to code spaces as well separately, and they have much more capabilities there. So there is a lot of support from GitHub, which is tremendous, and I would take advantage of these opportunities, which I think are great. Beyond that, the other thing I want to mention is that the true power of code spaces comes when you configure it. Once you start adding all those pre-installed dependencies, once you start like configuring a little bit what extensions should be pre-installed in the text editor, I think that's when we start seeing like, whoa, like this is really great, because we're abstracting away all of the problems away from the students and normalizing the environment so that the student can concentrate in the actual doing of the actual class, not on configuring a system. So those two things I think are the ones that I want to mention.
Perfect. Sarah?
Yeah, I'd love to add on to this. This is great. Yeah, I was just going to also say, I love what you said, Noah, about just go in and get a template and play. I think that's super important. I know if you go to the GitHub has the code spaces option right now on your top menu, where there's all those existing templates. I think there's some great options there to give you a base to just start and build and learn and have fun. For students, I think you just explore all of that. In code spaces, if you leave your tab open, which guilty, it will time you out. So you don't have to worry too much about eating all your 60 hours.
Just if you're a little bit like us that has like 1,000 tabs open all the time, like, don't worry about it.
Yeah, guilty. And just wanted to add too real quick for educators, I think it's it'll be really cool to see what educators do with it, because I think an educator can make a specific, which I'm sure like Noah's done, make a specific template repo for your class. And you know that all your students are starting with that exact same base, and you can configure linters and formatters, Copilot in there. And it could be a really boost for classrooms.
Thank you so much for those kind words. I've seen comments here of like Joseph being like, this is really nice. Fernando's like, it's amazing, Codespaces, thanks. And even Joseph has been like, as a teacher, he enabled it for his students, so they are using it next week, which is really exciting. No, I couldn't agree more with what you said. I remember when I used Git as a student and I was telling my teachers about like Git and how cool it was, and we could work together online. And some of them were very scared that we were sharing code online, but it's always a great extra tool that you can learn. Don't wait for someone to tell you, or to like maybe like tell you what to use, but rather like jump to it and share it with your friends. If you're a teacher, it's a great opportunity also to share learning resources. A lot of teachers are building great content already, so it is great if we are able to provide kind of like a hub or a space where these resources are available, so that as a teacher you don't have to do everything again and again and again. If someone has a great resources, please share it with us. We would love to provide more visibility to those classrooms that have been already built, and maybe some other teacher might find it very useful. Thank you so much for your time. But before we go, I just want to say that we launch a new experience on the GitHub Education website. This is a Primer Codespaces. So if you folks want to learn more about all the content that Alfredo and Sara have built for you, here you'll find all of the resources in one single space or spot. And what is also really cool is that Alfredo was super nice, and he made a series of videos on YouTube on how to get started with Codespaces. So don't waste any time kind of like looking for other resources. I think these videos are very well put together by Alfredo, and it's a great way for you to become a master, not only on Git and GitHub, but also in Codespaces and other tools that will not only help you out to be more productive, but also will make you look really smart as you go. I appreciate you all. Thank you so much for taking some time from your Thursday evening. And any last thing you would like to share with everyone? This is your 5-second time to promote anything.
I'll say one thing, which is I told somebody recently that Apple is one of my favorite companies. I just love all the Apple products, and I would say GitHub is starting to get to the point where the products are so awesome that they make me happy when I use them. So I'm really, really excited with all the stuff that GitHub's been doing, and I'm a huge fan.
We appreciate that a lot. You give us way more like good vibes than you give us much more. I don't know how to say this, but like we don't do that much, but I appreciate that it's very impactful for a lot of teachers out there. Sarah, do you want to go next? I see you unmuted. I'm sorry if I put you in the spot.
No, I can go. I was waiting to see if we're going to do our same round with Alfredo. Kind of like I mentioned just earlier, I would just encourage all the students that are watching out there just to play, fail, push boundaries, have fun. I mean, that's how you learn. Just because something doesn't work, that doesn't mean it's you or anything else. It's just that's how you learn, and just keep playing.
Fredo, you got the last voice of the day, so you need to make a huge
from my end, a big thank you GitHub for having us here, and these examples, these template repositories, and all the things that we put together, not just myself or not only Sarah. There was a whole team of people collaborating with them, creating videos, creating context, a lot of the instructions, and a lot of the code that went into it, and a lot of the brainstorming. So a big thank you to the whole Academic Cloud Advocacy team that helped put all of these together. I'm just like here, but clicking buttons, and they did all of the heavy lifting. So definitely a big thank you to the whole advocacy team at Microsoft.
Yeah, And with that note, also thanks to all of you who are watching this stream. Thanks to all the teachers that are jumping into this new thing. We understand that changing curricula is painful, but we appreciate this extra effort that you're doing to provide the tools that students might get really excited with, and that might provide a better experience for everyone for teaching and learning. Thank you, Noah, Sara, Alfredo, for all the amazing work that you folks are doing. And folks, if you want to learn some more news about GitHub, go to githubuniverse.com. The conference, we're on the last day of GitHub Universe, a celebration of not only new products and new features, but also celebration of the open source developer community. And we would love to see you there if possible. We have a ton of live streams and content coming up. And thank you all for taking the time to be here. I appreciate it a ton. And see you all next time. Take care, everyone, and enjoy
you.
the rest of your evening.